There are 4 things that you need in order to maximize gains in your stroke recovery. Hi, I'm Elise. I hold a clinical doctorate in occupational therapy, and I'm also a certified stroke rehabilitation specialist. Today, I'll cover the 4 pillars of an effective but time-saving home rehab program to help you make the most progress possible after your stroke. Before we jump in, please make sure to support the channel however you can. Like this video, subscribe, click the join button to become a channel member, or leave us a super thanks by clicking in the YouTube bar below. All right, let's get into it. Pillar number 1 is sustainability. It doesn't matter if you have the best home rehab program that was designed by top stroke recovery experts if you don't do it. Making your home rehab program sustainable is absolutely crucial. Neuroplasticity is our brain's ability to adapt and change and reorganize in response to challenging experiences. But without those challenging experiences, those neuroplastic changes don't happen. At the end of the day, the best home rehab program is the one that you'll do. So how do you actually create one that is sustainable over the long term? The first thing is to incorporate things you enjoy. For example, do you like to fix things up around your house, or do you enjoy crocheting? How can you find ways to incorporate those into your home rehab program, especially if you deal with things like fine motor control and coordination issues and dexterity problems? Number 2 is to make your home rehab program convenient. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to go to a gym or use fancy equipment to have a solid program. You can use things around your house to give yourself a strength or force challenge, and you can also purchase a few pieces of cheap equipment if you're really looking for that added benefit. And the last key to making a rehab program sustainable is to start slow. If you're just getting started, just trying to create a program and establish a habit, it can be really easy to try to go too hard too fast, but this will ultimately lead you to burnout. Be realistic about what you can expect of yourself, especially if you're dealing with things like neurofatigue or cognitive and mental fatigue. Start with just 1 day a week. Show up for yourself, and then when that feels like it becomes sustainable, you can work your way up to 2 days a week, 3 days a week, etc. It may take a couple of months for you to build up to the ideal frequency of your home rehab routine, but that's okay, because the more that you show up for yourself, the longer you stick to it, the better habits you're going to build. And ultimately, the more progress you'll make. Pillar number 2, simplicity. Your home rehab program doesn't need to be complicated. In fact, if it's overly complex, you're gonna be less likely to do it. And there are 2 things you need to think about in order to keep your home rehab program simplistic but effective. And those are exercises and everyday activities. Think about your home rehab program like this. You want to keep your exercises to a structured, planned routine. And I will talk more specifically about this in just a minute. But then you also want to use your affected abilities in everyday activities when you have time. Put a Post-it note up on your mirror to use your affected hand when you're brushing your hair or brushing your teeth. Use your affected hand to pull silverware from a drawer when you're getting ready to make a meal. Try to do some weight bearing through your affected leg while you're standing at the kitchen counter. While these activities aren't part of a structured workout, they can still be considered part of your home rehab program, and they don't add any unnecessary complexity because they're activities that you'd need to be doing anyway. Which brings us to pillar number 3, efficiency. Doing everyday activities and including your affected abilities in those is absolutely more efficient and saves you time. You're not setting aside a specific time period during your day to do those things. You need to get them done anyway, so therefore you just include your affected abilities when you're trying to do them. And while they may take a little longer than they would if you were not using your affected abilities, you essentially get 2 for the price of 1. The thing you need to do gets done, and you squeeze in a bit of therapy at the same time. But what about when it comes to your structured exercise routine? Especially when you're starting out, you don't want to spend 5 hours on your home rehab program. So you want to ensure that the structured part of your home rehab program is quick but effective. Now, if you're just starting out, this might mean that you're just doing 5 minutes a day. You can do anything for 5 minutes a day. This is gonna help you practice showing up for yourself and building that habit. Basically, you're helping to do things consistently and create sustainability. But whether you're just getting started or you want to have the most effective, efficient rehab program, what you need to keep in mind is to have a plan, make sure that you are working intensely, and that you have focused movements. You don't want wasted effort if you're showing up for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. For example, in traditional strength training, if you want to get the most bang for your buck as far as hitting the most major muscle groups you can with one exercise, you're going to go for more compound movements versus isolation movements. Think doing squats instead of calf raises, because squats hit most of the leg's major muscle groups while calf raises only hit one. Of course, in stroke recovery, this is highly dependent on what you want to work on. So isolation movements for you may be what you really want to focus on, which brings us to our last pillar, targeted movements. In order to have targeted movements in your home rehab program, you first need to establish goals to help you know what you want to work on. And I'll give a traditional strength training example. So this is something I've been working on a lot myself. My first goal was to be able to deadlift my body weight, and after months of working on it, I finally accomplished it. But without established goals, I wouldn't know what exercises or movements to work on. So whether you want to be able to deadlift or just hold a spoon to be able to feed yourself, set your goals so that you know what to focus on. And that way you're not paying attention or doing other exercises or movements that aren't really going to get you where you want to go. Once you've set those goals, you want to think about the muscle groups and movements that are going to allow you to reach those goals. And to do this, you need to try and think like a therapist. For example, let's go back to the spoon example. Let's think about all the movements you need in order to be able to hold a spoon and bring it to your mouth. Well, it doesn't start here. It starts at your shoulder and your scapula. You need to have the strength to be able to raise your arm up. That requires shoulder flexion. You also need to have bicep strength to be able to flex or bend your elbow to bring that hand closer to your mouth. You're also going to need to be able to supinate your hand, which is where you're lightly turning the palm up. You also need a certain amount of grip strength and dexterity to keep a hold of that spoon and to be able to keep it between your fingers. So once you understand the movements and the muscles that you need to strengthen in order to reach your goal, that's what you're going to center your structured home rehab program around. And you can apply these ideas to any goals that you have, to improve your walking, your balance, to be able to wash your own hair in the shower, or to put on pants without adaptive equipment. If you take the time to use these 4 pillars to create your home rehab program, you will absolutely maximize the amount of progress that you're going to make, more so than if you're just mindlessly trying exercises, or worse, if you don't have any home program at all. Please leave me a comment and let me know what has helped you stick to your home rehab routine. And of course, a huge thank you to all of the donors who make this nonprofit possible, with a special thank you to Heather G, Ryan D, Modus Nova, and Joseph M in our Empowerer tier on Patreon. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.